All right, so before we jump in, we're gonna cover just a few things. Number one, why would you want to reduce the amount of time you spend in the shop? The number one reason is it's gonna bring down your labor costs. Unless you have some really rich clients that can pay whatever you decide to put on the invoice, it's gonna be in your best interest to try and bring your labor costs down as much as possible.
Number two, it also helps you be less wasteful. So if you know exactly what you need to use to complete a task, you have less waste when it comes to wood, waste when it comes to time, waste when it comes to, I don't even know, charging the batteries on your tools, little things that all add up in the long run.
That's what we're gonna get into with the 10 things, is the things that we've most noticed cost us time are not the operations of cutting at the miter saw or ripping stuff at the table saw. It's the little things that you don't really notice.
Walking across the shop 3 times to grab your tape measure that you keep leaving on the opposite side of the shop, or you lost your pencil.
We're gonna get to that. Yeah, and then lastly, it's just safer. If you have efficient, quick, very safe shop practices, it's gonna minimize the amount of time you spend in front of a power tool or waiting for the next thing to happen, especially if you've got multiple helpers in the shop. You wanna make sure you stay out of each other's way. You're not using too much time in front of a power tool, because the more time you spend in front of a power tool, the higher chance you're more likely to injure yourself or someone around you. So quick and efficient shop practices are gonna go a long way in helping you create more profit as well as be a safer woodworker.
Safety police are gonna love this one.
All right, and it's really important to know before we get into these product recommendations, no one is sponsoring this video. All of the things you see here we've purchased with our own or our business's money, and they are just what we found to be the most useful things. So we're gonna jump right in.
All right, so coming in at number 10 is this fast cap tape measure. The things we love most about this are it's a lefty-righty tape measure. So if you open it up like this, you've got numbers and all the measurements on both sides of the tape measure. You don't have to flip it around. You don't have to move yourself around to the other side of the table to see what's in inches, what's in centimeters, whatever, because it's on both sides. So this is really nice because I'm right-handed and Davis is left-handed. And then we can both use the same tape measure, and it's really convenient. Also on the front here, you can see this little white circle. This is a spot to jot down measurements. So as you're measuring and you're looking at stuff, usually if you have another piece of paper, like a scrap piece of wood that you write on, that's easy to lose. That's another piece of clutter in your shop. Just write it right here. It also erases. And then on the back of this is a pencil sharpener. And that's always convenient. And then it's got this little clips right to your belt. So that is number 10, super convenient, writing down measurements, lefty-righty. So think about how many times you use a tape measure in one single thing that you're making. It's a lot. And how many times are you spreading it out, turning your head to see the measurement on the other side, forgetting measurements, trying to find something to write them down on. This is just one convenient, I guess, one-stop shop for all of your measurements. All right, coming in at number 9 is just a clock. Super simple. We sit in our shop. Be safe while looking at this. Don't be, in the middle of something, using blades, saws, whatever, and then look up at your clock. Be safe about it. But the main reason we have one of these is sometimes you don't realize how much time you're spending on one set thing. I get it. We're all passionate about woodworking. We could stay in the shop and do this for hours on end. But that ends up being wasteful sometimes. If you're doing a project for profit, if you're doing it for a customer, if you're spending 4 hours on it and not even realizing it, again, that's what we talked about previously, your labor costs. You are putting labor costs up. So that's why you use this a lot of times. If you're looking at this and you're realizing you're just having a slow day, maybe it's just taking you forever to do something you usually do pretty fast. Sometimes that can be a sign of, hey, maybe it's time to leave the shop. Maybe you need to do something else productive today because you're spending a little bit too much time on one part of your project for a customer. Maybe you need to go inside, work on your QuickBooks, design some logos, spend time with your family. Maybe it's just a family day. Just pay attention to that, and a simple clock, super easy. So that's number 9 for us. All right, so number 8 on our list is a mechanical pencil. Seems super simple, but a mechanical pencil. Put them everywhere. We say mechanical pencil because when the lead breaks, 2 clicks, instantly you have more lead. You're not wasting time sharpening pencils. You're not wasting time looking for a sharpener. It's instant. Lead breaks, you have more. And we say put them everywhere because how many times have you left it on one side of the shop and you're on the other side saying, where's my pencil? Sometimes that's a good minute wasted looking for the one pencil you have in your shop. Buy a box, dump them out, throw them on each of your tables in the shop, and then you'll never forget your pencil. So definitely number 8 for us.
All right, coming in at number 7, we have Google SketchUp. This tool takes a long time to learn. It does. Jay Bates has a wonderful series of tutorials on how to learn to do Google SketchUp, but I promise you, if you invest the time up front, it will save you so much time on the back end, especially when you're trying to pitch deals to clients, when you're trying to like rework the joinery on something, when you're doing, when you're thinking about making a new product. It's so handy to have Google SketchUp as a tool in your tool bag to just be able to whip it out and think through everything. Because by the time that you build it in Google SketchUp, if you've done your job, you know exactly what joinery methods you're going to use. You know exactly how much material to buy. You're not going to waste any material. You're not going to spend all the time poring over your notes and pieces of paper to, oh, how much waste am I going to have here? Oh, shoot, I didn't buy enough plywood. You know exactly how much you're going to use when you go to the store and buy it. So that's why we think it's super important to save you time just to learn how to use Google SketchUp, get proficient at it, and then after that, that's just another tool in your back pocket you can use. What we found works best for us, just learning Google SketchUp, model things that you've already built. Do your workbench, do your assembly table, do your drill press stand, whatever it is in your shop that you know how it goes together. Take some quick measurements and then build it in Google SketchUp. And that's going to be the quickest way to learn. That way, when you're imagining a new part, you're not trying to learn the program at the same time. You're not working both muscles, you're only working one creative muscle. All right, number 6 is an efficient shop layout. It's not really a tool, but it kind of is in a way. You want to spend a lot of focus and energy on making sure that your shop layout is in such a way that the natural progression of your project moves through the shop from one side to the other. That limits the amount of times you walk back and forth across your shop, because that adds up to be a lot of time. We even have our shop laid out in Google SketchUp so that if we're thinking about moving something around or adding a new benchtop tool, we can go ahead and lay out the shop in SketchUp and we know exactly the flow of projects through our shop. It takes a little bit of planning, but it will save you a ton of time on the back end.
All right, so number 5 for us is a dust collector. For a while, we didn't have a dust collector. We would just do the small ones that came with tools, like the one that's on the back of an orbital sander or something like that. Otherwise, we just didn't have any. There was dust everywhere. It was constantly a mess, sweeping probably twice a week in our shop, like full on moving stuff, sweeping, opening the garage, brushing it all out. And again, there's a time waster. Anytime you're talking about how frustrating something was because you had to do something so many times, you've officially wasted time and sometimes your own money. Yeah, dust collector, it's awesome. Cleanup is great. But the other aspect that we were kind of looking into when we bought the dust collector was safety, health and safety, I guess. You don't realize how many tiny particles are constantly floating around the shop as you're sanding when you make several cuts all at one time. You know, small particles make it into your lungs easier than larger particles do. And for us, it's just a safety thing. We're in here a lot. So we figured we'd invest in some cleanup and invest in our health a little bit so we're not constantly wearing masks.
All right, coming in at number 4 is some sort of heating or air conditioning system. Now, we don't have anything permanent in our garage, but that's something we're definitely gonna fix after we move to the south. I am not gonna spend any time worrying about the amount of money it costs to put in a heating and air conditioning system into our shop. I can't tell you how many times I've wasted an hour or two waiting for the garage to heat up when I could have been working. So whether it's hot or cold in your climate, if you are not working in the workshop because of the temperature in the workshop, you need to fix that. If you're a business, if you're making money, you should be focused on how much money is going into the business, not how much money you're spending. So make a few more sales, get some money, pay a heating and air conditioning person to put a mini split or some type of system in your garage, because I have personally wasted so many hours of my limited amount of time I have for the shop in waiting for the garage to heat up to where I could work on things without my fingers sticking to the metal because it was so cold. We also have a dehumidifier. Another thing that took a long time for us was once we got the shop heated up, it also raised the humidity in the shop because of all the ice and stuff in the concrete. And so a dehumidifier really went a long way into helping glue dry faster, finish dry faster, even after we had heated up the shop. So you may want to look into that option as well, especially if you use a swamp cooler as your AC option. I know a lot of people use those in drier climates. Those are great, but just keep in mind too, that's going to keep your finish and glue from drying as well. So you may want to look into a dehumidifier.
I was gonna make a joke about how you can never have too many clamps, but even that joke is overused.
Ha ha!
We're gonna move on.
You're so funny.
But in all reality, clamps come in at number 3 because they are nice, and I guess you kind of sort of can't ever have enough of them, whatever. So I mean, that just comes with stocking your shop with clamps. If it's something that's gonna save you time and it's saving you a trip to the store 3 times because you figure out you're missing a clamp in a certain size for a desk you're making or whatever, it's worth it just to have them ready instead of wasting time or trying to find a fix that's not a clamp and doesn't work as well as a clamp, and all of a sudden your project looks half as good as it could. So another thing we found out too is that if you are adjusting your project workflow or the workflow of your shop around how many clamps you have, go buy more clamps because you're sacrificing the quality of your build. And we learned that at the beginning. I can almost remember the exact project we were doing where we were like, oh, we don't have that many clamps, so we're only gonna be able to get 1 glue up done tonight. And we just looked at each other like, how ridiculous is that we're sacrificing productivity on a project for a client who's paying us because we only have 3 out of the 5 clamps we need. So, all that being said, go buy yourself some clamps and make your projects look nice.
Another, not really a tool, but still a tool, is your shop organization. I'm not a huge fan of all these like super fancy and expensive tool organization systems, but what I am a fan of is anything that gives you first order retrieval of your tools. Something like a tool wall. You don't need that super expensive, what is that, wall control stuff is the brand of whatever it is. They're giving away a lot of stuff to other makers. That stuff's nice, but man, is it expensive, and it accomplishes the same exact thing as a piece of plywood with a bunch of nails and screws in it. You want first order retrieval. Whatever's in a drawer, you don't want to be like shuffling and digging under things to try and find the tool, because that's going to add up over time if you need to get in the drawers 5 different times on a build. So focus on making it to where you have shelves or drawers or something like a wall system where all you have to do is look or open a door and grab what you need. It also helps because you can see where something is missing. Oh, do I already have that tool, or do I need to walk all the way across the shop? It's going to save you a lot of time and therefore money to just have first order retrieval on all of your tools. Another thing too, a lot of people like to keep their tools in the nice padded cases or polystyrene blow molded cases that they came in. That's all nice if you're trying to protect your tools, but if you're a shop that's trying to make money, every minute you spend pulling your tools in and out of a box or a bag is a minute lost to the customer that they're not really paying for. So you want to make sure that you've got first order retrieval. If you're afraid of your tools getting broken, you're not thinking correctly about how to use your tools as a business. You shouldn't be babying them. They're tools. They're meant to be dropped and worked and used, and when they're worn out, you buy a new one. That's just how business works. Don't abuse your stuff. You gotta balance it. And then the number one thing, these are not in any order, but the newest thing to us is a new track saw. This made the list for us because, oh my gosh, how much time I wasted trying to come up with different ways to cut giant pieces of plywood because I didn't have a track saw or a very nice circular saw. I had a very cheap circular saw. It was the very first tool I purchased. It was on clearance at Home Depot for like $13 or something, and it was terrible. I have an extra thin blade on it, which I thought was cool when I bought the saw, but you really need a full-size thick blade so it doesn't bend and wobble. Otherwise, you don't get perfectly square corners on your plywood cuts. So I used to spend so much time and effort, like I would even change the design of a project so I wouldn't have to use the circular saw to cut the plywood down. Tons of wasted time. Just get a track saw. It's stupid simple. Like you just lay the track down over your pencil line and then you go. It's that simple. You don't have to have any sort of a door board. You don't have to have any sort of clamping down and then, oh, it moved, or there's sawdust in the way, or I got off track. Literally lay it down, zip it across, move on to the next thing. I can't tell you how excited we are that we have a new track saw in the shop that will save us so much time. So yes, they're more expensive, but I'm gonna save that much money in labor in the first month that we use it. So it'll definitely pay for itself. Do you have any bonus tips to share?
My bonus tip is don't include any bonus tips because your viewers are officially sick of watching.
Bonus tips. So, number one, try to find tools that do multiple things. I know that we like to have like unitaskers. It's just like kitchen gadgets. Try to avoid buying tools that only do one operation unless you do a ton of that operation. So an exception would be something like an orbital sander or a Festool domino, something that's really good at what it does, but you use it a lot. If you're trying to buy something that is a little jig or something like that that you don't do, but like once a month, it might not be worth it for you to buy that jig. You'd be much better off saving your money up to buy a track saw and selling your circular saw than if you bought 1,000 little plastic jigs from somewhere online that really help you with one operation a month. Focus on where you spend most of your time, what kind of projects that you do, which we're coming out with another video soon on projects that are really easy to sell, make you a lot of profit margin, and that are pretty tough to mess up even if you're a beginning woodworker. So be on the lookout for that video. Until then.
What did we miss? Let us know in the comments if there's anything else that makes your top 10 list the thing that saves you the most time. What is your big time saver? So let us know down in the comments.
This is one of the best communities as far as helping each other out and sharing tips and tricks, so we'd love to hear what works best for you. Please subscribe if you like us. We put out content like this to help you with your woodworking business every single week. If you are a subscriber, we would also ask that you give us a thumbs up if you thought this video was helpful. We want to grow and share and help build this community into something that's even better than it already is. So that starts with helping some makers make a little bit of extra money during the month to maybe help pay a car payment, buy something for your spouse, or help just pay the rent.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.